We have Dietz with us, one of the founders of Ethereum and also MetaMask Wallet and ArtWallet founder. Joel, вы меня слышите?
I'm currently doing some research at MIT around sort of the future of innovation and how governance and kind of smart city system will evolve. And it's very exciting to see what some of the brightest people in Russia are working on today, and to be able to help with that process and new students. And I think it's a whole new world that we're creating, frankly. So we're starting in some ways at the bottom up. Not everything in the NFT space will continue, but many of these things we're doing is effectively the future of the world and every kind of system that will exist in the next few years. So since this is NFT week, I'll talk mainly, about NFTs and how it's being evolving. So just a little bit of background. I've been involved in sort of the founding of crypto economics as a discipline, academic discipline. I'm writing a book on crypto economics now. And crypto economics is really the foundation of everything from a kind of science and math perspective. So if any of you are science and math people, I recommend starting there. And there's a lot of different research topics that are being covered. I won't go into all of them. And in fact, these ones that are here on this list are just the 19 or so that Vitalik thought were the most important ones from the standpoint of Ethereum and the progress that's been made. But as you can see from the green versus the red versus the yellow, there's quite a lot of things that are still need to be researched, still need to be built. And I encourage people to look at these things on the scale of decades, not simply the next year, but where will we be in the next 5 or 10 or 20 years. So please get involved. And also some other I'm effectively academic, so background on some of the things I'll be talking about. If anyone looks at the kind of literature side, I advise you to go back into the history of things around the self-organizing biological systems and how all different organizations in nature evolve and effectively coordinate together, because many of the things we're seeing in the blockchain world are effectively the same systems kind of coming into the new world. In fact, and what I'm going to be talking about today in particular, why this is relevant, is as we go from the metaverse as a concept and building it out to the physical universe and the building the future of infrastructure for our societies. So where are we today? Well, we have some cool metaverse lands that exist. This is one from CryptoVoxels. This is actually some piece that a friend of mine built and a different friend of mine advised and designed. And it illustrates, the fact that people are building, palaces, villas, art galleries, interactive experiences, games, play to earn games, etc., all in the metaverse. And they're kind of at this sort of capturing this new focus, when I'm sure people are aware of what's happening now with play to earn and everything else. And so much more that is basically coming. In fact, hopefully we'll have a chance to invite someone else to talk on this call who's currently in the waiting room, who will be giving a little bit of exposure into how that thing evolves, which I'm going to come back to. But kind of from where we are to where we're going now, here is one partner of ours in which we're looking really at kind of urban development scope projects where people are building entire cities from scratch, and they have the design expertise, the construction expertise, the fine, engineering related parts. Obviously, there's a lot of different pieces that are need to build things at a sort of city scope, but to be systematic about it and make sure you don't miss pieces. So, many things in the blockchain space as an NFT space today are, very, I would say transient, but they're not necessarily looking at kind of core infrastructural issues. And when I do things and like to get involved, I like to kind of look at all of the necessary component parts, as well as figuring out what's missing to kind of build the complete picture. And to me, the complete picture from an NFT side, is one that goes all the way back to, the physical infrastructure side. And we're basically building the back end. So this is what led to one of the projects that has been growing very rapidly. We have a kind of TGE event on the 19th. So there's a token, it'll be available. And it's a gateway, not just into the NFT world, but the world of everything in the metaverse, and particularly the high-end kind of consumable content that is not available everywhere else today. So like as an example that kind of ties together, it's very important for some people to be able, if you're buying something today, say it's a punk or some other art piece or some VR installation or whatever, that is still going to be accessible to you in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, particularly if it's a large sum of money. And none of the platforms of today guarantee that. In fact, a lot of times they try to make sure you don't think about it. So really getting into the insurance side, the kind of bankability side, the integration with what we know from value chain, as well as figuring out the structural economics, which is a very core piece of how pieces come into reaching their price point, but that can stabilize at a particular price point instead of what we've seen in the crypto world many times where things are very cyclical. Everyone builds a sort of bonding curve type dynamic, but that you buy in, but then it almost guarantees that the price is going to dissipate and pop, and that there's going to be a large consolidation. So there are ways in formal economics to offset against those things. There are ways to actually show whether or not people who are buying are actually legitimate buyers or are actually kind of real registered accounts. Usually that's not used in the NFT space today because people want to create a sense of basically inflated value, inflated volume, the kind of typical sort of tricks. But I think as things mature, that will become, not a preferred option for very serious kind of art buyers. And so that's leading us into a whole nother world of kind of opportunities there. In fact, along with that, and kind of representative of that, we're doing a launch here, and let's see if I can show you this, at NFT Basel, which is starting very soon. This is the Crypto Apollo piece here. And, it has rarity factors and everything else, as you might expect from a kind of NFT space. We'll be auctioning off the first 111. And also behind that will be an NFT wrapped car that will basically be given out as a prize to one of the people who has one of these pieces, including some that happen at the TGE. But the really thing that it represents as well from Apollo is a god not just of the sun and light and honesty and, in his own kind of relationship with Dionysius, but also of, in representation, marble, the physical goods, the objects. And so bringing cars and physical things in is something that we believe we're going to be the first people to be able to do at scale, and opens up this whole other kind of very exciting world. Another just general thing that I think we're going to see as the NFT space matures that is very exciting, goes back to what I talked in the beginning, is that governance as a field, as a discipline, has many problems associated with it, as I'm sure everyone is aware. I started with smart cities, and kind of how smart cities are evolving, and discovered, very quickly that just in general, most smart cities are not very smart. It's more marketing. People put on a bunch of IoT devices, supposedly smart things, and they put it on top of an existing infrastructure, but it's not integrated very well. There's no kind of dynamic feedback systems that exist to kind of integrate that feedback. And the actual decision-making things are not necessarily optimizing for core variables that are aligned with the long-term success of those cities or, larger jurisdictions. So as an example, if you are tracking these things, you should be able to figure out how happy are the people in the city, how wealthy are the people in the city, how, healthy, is there obesity problems, are there other types of problems, whatever. And then once you have that data at your fingertips, you can evolve and create the variable and a feedback cycle that's optimizing for the variables that are associated with a long-term success. But unfortunately, in many, governance process today, that integrative thing doesn't exist, and there are many reasons for that. But one of them is that no real cities have been built from scratch in a while. So they haven't had the opportunity to really integrate the data side of cities into the governance side of cities. And then, just in general, there are lots of opportunities here because, many of the political movements of the past kind of lost their cachet. Even though there's lots of people who, in theory, believe in democracy today, there aren't nearly as many people willing to die for some of these concepts as there were 50 years ago or whatever it is. So that's just, statistically obvious. And then a lot of people, they just simply don't want to be, living in a completely privatized world or whatever else. So really just a ton of like opportunities here. And really the metaverse as a concept, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with that is because you're in the middle of this NFT week, but I'll talk concretely about how it's the solution to all the things we're talking about. Basically, it gives you a toolbox for imagining everything that could exist in the most exciting way possible without being constrained by what exists in the world today, which, a lot of times if you look around, you're like, oh, this is not a very good situation. But if you look in the metaverse, it's basically a world of imagination and possibility. So, you can fly in the metaverse as an example. You can have any kind of interactive experience. You don't even have to be constrained by your physical body or your appearance or how people perceive you or your identity or all those kind of things. Other great thing, from a blockchain perspective that's made blockchains very successful and NFTs, why everyone listening to me today has heard about NFTs is because you can get rich. And in fact, you can get rich quick off of these things. And if you get in early, you get a benefit. And that's one of the things in the metaverse too. Things are basically saleable. You can also create a purpose for why you're doing things, which is super exciting. And then all the things I'm talking about, dynamic feedback systems of governance, all available as well. So basically everything that you can define for the success of your city, let's say that you're building yourself or with a team or whatever else, can decide what are the things that are important, the success factors, and then optimize for those, which, as I said, is quite difficult sometimes in the rest of the world. And then another thing that goes back to the literature side is, the swarm style simulations. So basically you can simulate the future of how things are going to evolve in different circumstances, which is also very exciting. But it gets better. So this is kind of the cool, yes, we can solve a lot of the problems in governance and cities and urban design and, the future with, NFTs and this kind of technology. Great, like absolutely, let's do it. But what's even better, and I think Joe, if you're still here, was going to talk about this. But basically, we're on a path to get 1 billion people playing games in the metaverse in the next little while. And basically onboarding this huge population of people who are actively learning and onboarding through blockchain type dynamics through games. So, Joe, would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me just introduce myself. So my name is Joe Moore. I'm the co-founder of a company called Unix Gaming. We essentially connect normal everyday people with the metaverse, with NFTs and the play to earn space. So what really excited us about this, everything that's going on, as you've just heard about, is that this is creating opportunities for people. Games have always been exciting. They've always been fun. It's been a form of entertainment, but now it's branching out into so much more than that, where people are able to earn real money from playing these games. Now, gaming has expanded exponentially over the last few years, and it's been the biggest industry in entertainment. It's bigger than music, it's bigger than films, it's bigger than all of them combined. And now when you chuck in blockchain technology and crypto, all of a sudden you give people the opportunity to earn money with something they truly enjoy. And now this is creating a whole different dynamic. It's really changing the way people organize themselves. So for a lot of you will probably be familiar with Axie Infinity. They are the biggest players in this space. But rest assured, there are many, many other emerging games who are following in those footsteps. And the speed at which this is growing and the opportunities that it is creating is absolutely unbelievable. So not only is it creating opportunities for the people in developing countries who are playing these games, it's creating amazing investment opportunities for anybody that gets involved to help sponsor these players. And obviously for us as a company, it's really powerful as well. And what always excites me, and this is a conversation that me and Joel have been quite in depth with, is this what happens when everybody is able to attain a certain standard of living through games, and everybody is spending the majority of their time in the metaverse. This creates a really interesting concept. And we truly believe, with the emergence of DAO systems, with the emergence of the metaverse, with the emergence of VR and these different combinations, it's very, very easy to imagine a world where all these different things intersect, which can completely restructure the way societies are organized. And we are so early in this, and this is why it's such an exciting space. There's so many different layers to this. We're just very excited to be at the forefront of everything that's going on. Also very excited to be on this call with Joel because he's doing amazing things in this space.
So yeah, just to bring things to a close, you know, ArtWallet.co has information about that project. Joe, where can people go to find more information about Unix?
So it will be unixgaming.org. That is unixgaming.org. That would be the best place. And we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. We have a massive Discord channel with 150,000 people, which is also Unix Gaming.
Fabulous. And yeah, pleasure to be here today. Thank you, everyone.
Спасибо, Джоэл. Я говорю на русском. Надеюсь, Джоэл, да, смотрит нашу...
Thank you, Joe. I will be speaking Russian, and we will have two questions for you, Joe. So first of all, what would be the cost of Metaverse if there will be only 3 persons, not 3 million persons, but just 3, and will it have any point of existence?
In this case?
So I'm assuming someone's going to translate for me.
Да, будьте добры, у нас 2 аудитории здесь, чтобы мы...
Can you hear me, Joel?
Нас слышат вообще, ребята, или как?
Can you hear me, Joel?
So can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Хорошо. Попробуем повторить вопрос. Мы тут посвящались. Итак, вопрос. Что будет
so the question is, what would be the cost of Metaverse if there will be only 3 inhabitants, not billion inhabitants, but just 3? So will there be any point in developing this Metaverse?
I think they're asking to support the numbers hypothesis to you, Joe. Where the
I mean, I don't speak Russian, so it's going to be really difficult for me to answer this question effectively. I would love to answer. I really wish I could, but I absolutely can't.
Yeah.
Понятно.
I did look. I have Sergey. We have Sergey interpreter.
Joe,
yes.
Will it be a reason to create the metaverse? Спасибо, я себя слышу. Да, хорошо. Собственно, спасибо, Джо, спасибо, что вы нас втягиваете в эту авантюру. И все-таки я прошу, может ли переводчик, сейчас я прошу задать вопрос другой? Наверное, нет, без вопросов. Да, ну, мне говорят...
Unfortunately, there are some technical issues and speakers cannot hear the interpretation.
So if I can help here, Joe, the question was, is there any sense if the metaverse will contain only a couple of people instead of millions that we target mass adoption? So the question is, what will happen? What is the sense in metaverse if there are not enough people, not millions, but just a couple of people, 3 people, 4 people are using this?
I think it's basically impossible because, well, Joe, you want to answer the question first?
Say it's already happening. We already exist in a metaverse. Every time we're accessing Instagram, every time we're going on Facebook, every time we're interacting with different technologies and putting our consciousness and our attention into those places, we're already existing in a metaverse. This is something that's already happening, and the vast majority of the planet are participating in this. So this is just a new way of organizing things. It's already happening. It's just happening in a very different way now.
And yeah, I would say just from games, you know, you can see that the gaming industry has evolved in certain things, you know, so, you know, playing GTA or any kind of like online game or whatever it is effectively taking a step into the metaverse. And really the only question is, how deep do you go? And some people are always going to be wading, you know, foot deep. Some people are going to be knee deep. Some people are going to go waist deep, and some people are going to become scuba divers in the metaverse. So, but everyone's touching it already in some form.
Yeah, I'd like to develop on that point as well, because there are different levels to it. So like the first level could arguably be your consciousness. You're putting your attention into this game. The next level could be that you have sensations of being in the game. Another level again would be that the majority of your interactions and your socialization happens within this game or platform. So there's always these different layers. So I suppose the philosophical question is, what equates to being in the metaverse? And I would suggest it would be the different parts of the human experience that then go from being this physical experience to being put into a game. So what does that look like? That's very much open for debate.
Спасибо, спасибо. И второй вопрос попробуем. Нелли, вы как, вы с нами?
Рассчитывайте на меня.
Yes, yes. So, второй вопрос. Все-таки, когда сейчас активно зазывают включаться в эти
So
метавселенные,
the second question, when people are engaging into multiverses, and people are mostly based on the wishes for power and wealth. So, but when we are in a museum, we want to keep the cultural heritage and popularize it to the maximum extent, and that's our interest for us. So what can we find in metaverse for us there?
Okay, guys, let me play the role of your translator today, okay? The question is the following. Right now in the metaverses, in the this all new gaming and NFT environment, metaverses, they attract those people who want to reach either prosperity, wellness, money, and maybe brand awareness and all these aspects. But try to put the shoe on the shoes of the museum of culture worker. So what museums, like Russian museums, what those stakeholders who really have different motivation, who want to bring the culture to the masses, how they can benefit from the metaverses?
Sure. Would you like to start, Joe, or do you want me to go? I'm ready. I'll go. I feel like this is just a natural progression of where we are. So ultimately, people are always going to be attached to different collectibles, different pieces of history. And that's happened. That's just something that human beings like to do. And I think all that's changing now is just the medium in which we do that, because we're starting to exist in a digital world. And I believe that it is the natural progression, and that is just the way it is going to go. And I feel like there is just as much value in owning these things in a digital capacity as there is in having them in the physical form.
would mostly
Okay.
agree with that myself, but I would say, there's really interesting composites that are happening today, and I was in many conversations about this even in the last 24 hours of, the physical.
Excuse me, Joel, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but it's impossible to hear you because there is some weird sound, probably from your headphones. So.
Yeah, there's some pretty intense feedback, Joel, from your headphones. Sounds very crackly. Can't hear anything you're saying.
Exactly.
Well, I would just say that it's very interesting to see the fusion that's happening between the real and the physical items, and the future of fashion and various other industries as well.
Спасибо большое, спасибо, Джоэл,
Okay,
спасибо.
thank you very much, Joel. Thank you, Joe, for your callings, for your invitations to Multiverse.